is and how we can know this information, share this information. We'll be more than happy to, at the end of the training, to talk to anybody that wants to give this training in person in any of your places, workplaces, congregations, family members, whoever you think might need this training. We're more than happy to talk to you afterwards. And I can go ahead and start. I'm going to be doing this training along with my colleague, Linda. Linda is our super volunteer in Durham, and she is a rock star for hopping on all of the trainings that we've had this week. So I'll be giving just the first portion of it, and then Linda's going to talk about the rest. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, great. Thank you. So my name is Anaí. I am a Siembra organizer. I also like to share that I'm a DACA recipient and that my family is undocumented. I have family in Chicago and I have family in New York. So this work that I'm doing with Siembra is personal to me. I'm not doing it only because I think it's really important, but because it is it's personal and my family is definitely always at risk when things like this happen. So I really appreciate that all of you are wanting to get more information on what you can do. Um, can I see if you can just like use your emojis or thumbs up if you know who Siembra is or have heard of Siembra before? Thank you, Karen, Brianna. Cool. All right. I see a lot of emojis. Great. So I will just talk a little bit about who Siembra is for those of us who don't know. Siembra is actually an organization that has primarily focused their efforts in the immigrant community with the Latina community. We have about 1.5 million Latina community in the state of North Carolina. And we believe that all people in North Carolina deserve what we call el buen vivir, which translates to the good life. We really do want people to live full, happy lives. And a lot of times that vision has taken us to take on fights with abusive landlords, doing some work around wage theft, practice community defense, like we've done most recently with our hotline and our iWatch training programs, fight for housing rights, and basically we take on any fight that gets in the way of gets in the way of anyone in North Carolina from fulfilling and from achieving a happy life. Right now, Siembra is focused on addressing two major threats. The first one, and the likely reason why many of you are here today, is that the Trump administration has escalated community arrest. Um, and it has sent a lot of ICE agents and other federal agents into communities, not just in people's, to knock on people's homes, but also to raid people's workplaces. And since the beginning of the year, Siembra launched um, a statewide rapid response operation that has helped organize like large scale know your rights about, what do you do if you see any ICE activity. And those programs are fueled by over 2,000 volunteers that have become ICE verifiers and have helped the community stay safe and minimize a little bit of the panic by not spreading false information and verifying the activity that people are reporting. Can you go to the next slide, please? And the second threat that we're dealing with and that we take very seriously is that very panic that people are feeling, right? Like like I said, I'm from Chicago, and I remember when back in January when the Trump administration said we're going to go ahead and deploy ICE agents to start doing their mass scale arrests, like people were panicking. And social media is really powerful right now, and any rumor can get spread pretty fast. And the panic has been so big, not just in North Carolina, but everywhere across the country, where people actually have stopped either going to work, taking their kids to school, like doing their daily things like grocery shopping, going to the doctor. And that very panic is something that I think the Trump administration, Stephen Miller, that's exactly what they want. They want people to be so afraid that they're self-deporting. And we had members at Siembra who we've worked with for so long, and they've lived in North Carolina for over 30 years, and they self-deport because of this fear that they felt. So we think that that's not right, and that it is very unfortunate to lose people in this way. And so we decided to, take it up a notch and start doing, trainings around what the Fourth Amendment says, because this is, with or without papers, the Fourth Amendment is a constitutional right, and it's a constitutional right that everyone should know about. Um, and with that being said, this is a training about the Fourth Amendment. And if you want to go to the next slide. And it is entirely done by the Fourth Amendment. I'm sorry, it's entirely done around the Fourth Amendment workplace guide that we have available for anybody that wants it. If you all don't have any information with you all right now, we're going to give that to you by the end of the call. I'll make sure that Brianna has it, and that they can email it to you all. Yeah, so like I mentioned, Siembra currently has a 24-hour, 7 days a week hotline. This means that anyone that sees any ICE activity, anything related, or they may think that there's ICE activity in their neighborhoods, they can call this hotline, and there will be someone answering that to make sure that they get the support they need, and or dispatch volunteers to ensure that they verify the rumor. So this is incredible. I don't know about you all, but it's incredible. They're like Siembra is really running kind of like a 911 system right now, but for eyes. And it's including a bunch of people like yourselves who are willing to do something to protect the community. And they are on call. So they have a whole system as to, in I think across 15 counties, to dispatch volunteers at any given moment if anything like this were to happen. Um, this was also something that they did back in 2016, during the Trump 1.0 era, and this has just become more sophisticated and a little bit more complex, and it has scaled up in a way that we didn't expect in the past. So I do want to name that. There will be an ICE Watch training for trainers on August 20th, I believe, for folks who want to do their own trainings with their communities. There have been places in the state that we haven't been able to reach, but we're getting a lot of requests about come to our county, come to our city, but they're very, very far away, and we are just so little. Our staff is not that big. So yeah. Can you want to go to the next slide? So around March or April, we actually launched our Fourth Amendment initiative here in North Carolina, with the idea that we wanted to make sure that communities across the counties knew that we have their back. And we started canvassing different workplaces, different businesses, and that not only meant just small businesses, but that also meant like healthcare centers, um, some school districts, and we started just making sure that people knew what the Fourth Amendment said, and they could become Fourth Amendment workplaces. There's different ways in which businesses and workplaces can do that. We started this in March, and we have canvassed over 500, maybe even more now, businesses and workplaces across the state, and over 200 of them have actually signed on to be for the amendment. And what that means is you can either be public, put a little poster like this in your workplace, meaning that you know what the Fourth Amendment says, or a workplace can go beyond that and take a little training like the one you're taking right now, and create a protocol for their staff around what to do in case there is an unexpected ICE visit. So yeah, this is a huge amount of work. I also love to share that this work could not have been possible with the amount of volunteers we've had. And oh, canvassing over 500 businesses, that's not something Siembra staff did. That is something that we did along all the people that felt the calling and the desire to do something right now. So it is incredible. And folks are organizing, they're outreaching to workplaces, but they're also like people like Linda are taking their time out of their day to come to trainings like this and make sure that people have this information. Great. Go on to the next slide. Yep, and this training is based entirely on materials that are available online for everybody. We have our website, fourthworkplace.org. This is a website that got created for workplaces, so workplaces can go sign in and they can get their materials. Fourth Amendment, it started in North Carolina, and I love to share this, but it became a nationwide thing now. So we have influence over 12, maybe 15 organizations in the country to adopt Fourth Amendment as an initiative of their organization and do the same thing. So I don't know if you've seen this, but it kind of became a thing. And more workplaces outside of the state have been canvassed and have created protocols to make sure their staff is ready and that they know what their rights are. Great. Next slide. I see Marianela asks, where can we get information of all the Fourth Amendment trainings? Lots of businesses and people are asking. Yeah. So there's a training for trainers. So, what we've noticed and what we learned throughout this process is that folks like yourselves have relationships with workplaces. And they were the ones that wanted to be the ones training other people. So I was basically the main organizer along with some of my colleagues that were training those folks to give those trainings. But the demand has been big that we're going to have a training for trainers around the Fourth Amendment on August 20th. So I would just say if you would like to learn more about, I actually want to equip myself with the same skills and the same tools and with this deck that we're showing right now and be a trainer myself. You can come to learn how to kind of do that. Folks like to be in community learning together on August 20th, and you are going to get all these materials that you can use on your own. Yeah. And if you can't make it on August 20th, I always like to make myself available for whoever has any questions. Go grab some coffee, talk, together. And if you feel like I actually love this material and I want more people to know about this, I myself don't feel like I could be the trainer. Don't worry, we got you. Linda's part of a statewide trainers that is available to go to businesses, to any workplaces that want this training. I often co-facilitate with my volunteers, so we can also do that. So there's ways. There's ways that we can definitely have this information continue to spread. Next, please. Okay, wait, that was your turn. Okay, that was all about Siembra, who we are, how we started Fourth Amendment. And now we're gonna dive into the actual content of what it means. And I will pass it over to Linda. Thank you.
Thanks, Anai. That was a great overview. So we started talking about the Fourth Amendment, and I don't know about y'all, but before I started doing this work, I didn't know what that was. So I'm putting into the chat box a definition of the Fourth Amendment, which I'm going to read, and I'm going to invite folks to either come off mute or put in the chat. Put this in your own words or tell me what you think it means. A lot of this is kind of legally and constitution-y. I'll remind you that we are being recorded, so if you choose to share off mute, know that that'll be part of the recording. I don't think the chat box is going to be part of the recording. Brianna, can you confirm that? We'll see if they confirm that. But certainly, I encourage lots of participation throughout this section, and if you choose to hold off until the recording's done, I understand that too. So, the Fourth Amendment protects us against warrantless searches and seizures by law enforcement in private areas. Who can put that in their own words and tell me what you think that means? Okay. In the past, I thought it meant police could not come into my home to do a search without warrants. Okay. CB says, my stuff is not the government's business. Yeah, absolutely. I think these all line up with the Fourth Amendment. Specifically, it's saying that law enforcement can't go into a private area, and we're going to talk about what that means, unless they have a really specific kind of warrant or unless you give them permission. So we're going to get into talking about that. But together today, we're really going to be focusing on what are our rights under the Fourth Amendment? How can we interact with federal agents should we have to interact with ICE? And how can we take action to make sure that it's less likely that federal agents or ICE will unconstitutionally enter somewhere they're not supposed to be and we haven't given them permission to be? So instead of me talking at y'all, we're going to explore this together through an interactive question and answer game. This originated as a Jeopardy game, but we're just going to do a Q&A today. So I'll ask a question aloud and I'll invite you to answer in the chat or off mute. The point of the game is not to get it all right. I didn't know these answers either. The point is really to kind of think critically and learn new things together. As questions come up, you're more than welcome to drop them in the chat or come off mute. Please do hold all questions that you don't want recorded until the end, but this can be as conversational as folks are comfortable with. I do want to acknowledge that these are really hard and scary topics, and they can be hard to talk about. And so although this is kind of set up in a game way, we do not mean to diminish the importance and the seriousness and the severity of this. So as we're moving through this content, please take care of yourselves and each other. You can always pass, take a break, and I are available to chat afterwards if folks need support. Okay, any questions before we get started? All right, our first question is, the Fourth Amendment protects everyone against unreasonable search and seizure, which is a search without a warrant signed by a judge or without probable cause that a crime has been committed. But law enforcement officers can legally search your business without a warrant if you do what? You don't ask for one, if you give them permission, or if you have a no warrant needed sign up. Go ahead, take a guess off mute or in the chat. All right, we've got lots of guesses and votes coming in here for number 2, give them permission. Y'all are correct. You're killing it already. Yes, and so we're going to be talking about and practicing what it might sound like to be really clear when we're not giving permission. All right, next question. The Fourth Amendment says law enforcement can't search for people in areas that are private, which means they are not open to the general public. Which of these are public areas? And I'll give you a little hint. If anyone can walk in without asking permission, it's a public area. So which of these are public? Parking lot, restroom, restaurant dining room, restaurant kitchen, break room, grocery store manager's office. Couple guesses for all of them.
We had a mixture of
First column.
responses.
Yeah, we got a mix. There's some debate here. I know for me, it can take me a second to like read and think and then type in the chat. So I'm just giving people lots of space to be thinking here. Okay. So our first column, folks, have one. These are considered public areas: parking lot, restroom, restaurant, dining room. These areas on the right-hand side are considered private because it's not the case that anyone can walk in without asking permission. Okay. And a lot of the work that Siembra often does with organizations, with workplaces, with congregations, with whomever we're working with is to really talk with folks specifically about what is your space, what are the areas that you think are public, what are the areas that you think are private, and really talking through and planning with folks around what's public, what's private, and for the things that are private, how can you be really clear about that, and are there areas that additional areas that you could make private? So I might have given away a little bit of this answer, but we'll see. All right, next question. What are things you can do to create private areas and or make it more difficult for law enforcement to enter without a warrant? Decide some areas are now off limits to the general public, post signs and posters, install door locks, require all non-employees. This could also be clients, congregation members, to check in or enter through a specific entrance, train staff to deny entry to any law enforcement agents, and insist that they leave. All right, I'm getting lots of votes for all of these. Looks like all of them. Absolutely. These are all things that people can do. All of these might not be a good fit for everyone, but all of these are options and things that we can support folks in thinking through when or if they need. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about what we mean in terms of these warrants. So an ICE agent presents you with a warrant. They say gives them the right to search your business. Which of these things does it have to include in order to be valid? Signature of a federal judge, not an ICE agent, has to say U.S. District Court, not Department of Homeland Security, correct address of the workplace, correct time range in which the search can be conducted, and the employees listed on the warrant have to be present at the workplace. All right, we feel confident about the federal judge. Some people think all. Not sure about the final one. Yeah. So in fact, all of these have to be included on a warrant for it to be valid. So I'm going to put into the chat box for you all. There's a really handy warrant side-by-side comparison that shows the difference between a judicial warrant that's signed by the judge that comes from the U.S. District Court and an administrative warrant, which is generally signed by an ICE agent. And really shows you where you would look for the signature of the federal judge at the bottom, where it says U.S. District Court at the top, where you would look for the address of the workplace or the church or the congregation or whatever it happens to be, where you would look for that time range. And then warrants also have to have really specific parameters. So they name specific people, specific places. Most of the time, if ICE shows up, they don't have a warrant. And if they do, it's usually an administrative warrant. It's much less common that they have a judicial warrant, but that judicial warrant, if they have one, only is going to give them the right to search and seize private areas within these really specific parameters of address, time, only the people that are listed on the warrant. And so that's really important when we start talking about how we can be asserting our rights and making sure that we're holding federal agents accountable to say, you know, this is a private area. I don't give permission or consent for you to be in here, or you have a warrant and this is all that you're entitled to. You can't question everyone here. There are specific rights around this.
I also would add to someone's last point about the employee listed on the warrant to have to be present at the workplace. They have to have the names of every single person that they're looking for. And in terms of the parameter, it's not enough to just say an address. So for instance, if there is a hotel, you you have the address of the hotel, like that's not enough. It has to be on what part of the hotel are you trying to search? Are you trying to search a room? Are you trying to search the back part? Are you trying to search the office? Like it can be as detailed as that. And most people think that just because they have the address, then the parameters is all of the things, and it's not.
Thank you so much, Anai. Melissa, I'm seeing a question in the chat. When, if ever, do businesses have to abide by the immigration version of a warrant? They don't. ICE has a right to be in public areas and will do what they do in public areas. They don't have a right to be in private areas unless you give them permission to be there or unless they have a judicial warrant. So if they have an administrative warrant, they cannot enter private areas without permission. Great, wonderful. Good. Oftentimes, when we're working with folks, because people can get kind of nervous about this, oftentimes we recommend that people identify a specific point person. So maybe that's a manager or a supervisor in a workplace, who would be the point person that if ICE were to show up with a warrant, they're the one that would review it. And when this option is available, we always encourage people to exercise their right to counsel and to say, I'm not authorized to grant you access to this area until I can call a lawyer, my lawyer, to review this warrant to determine what I should give you access to. Judicial warrant is different from an administrative warrant. Yeah. Great. All right, we're gonna keep moving. We'll keep talking about the warrant stuff. And this is these are just another image that's really small and a little hard to see. But again, of an arrest warrant or an administrative warrant versus a criminal judicial warrant. And the big point we're making here is around this being signed by a judge versus an ICE agent. The difference between the two warrants is that one is signed by a judge and legally gives law enforcement the right to search and seizure of private areas that are specified under the warrant. This administrative ICE warrant is an ICE thing that doesn't give them the right to search private areas. But it's a formal piece of paper that often intimidates people when they don't know what their rights are under the Fourth Amendment. Yeah, Anais helping out in the chat box.
Hello, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Could you hear that, Anais, just now? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right.
And then just remember to keep yourself unmuted.
Got it. So we're going to watch a video. So as I just mentioned, every workplace has protections against unreasonable search and seizure. This is a video of a barber in El Paso, Texas, and of ways that he chose to assert some of his rights when ICE agents followed a state licensing board inspector into his workplace. So this is a video of someone interacting directly with ICE. And so I'm going to ask us to listen to this and think about what are the rights that he's asserting and how is he asserting them? And then we'll talk about this.
I didn't authorize for you to be in here. I need for you to step out of my business. Excuse me, sir. I need for you guys to step out. Sir? Sir? I need for you to step out.
These guys are conducting an inspection. Huh?
Yeah, that's a different whole.
They could come in here. Wherever.
No, they're inspecting my licenses for the shop,
Right.
and you are doing a different thing. It's totally different situation. So I need for you to step out.
All right. When they leave, I'll leave. Okay.
No,
Yes.
I need for you to step out. I'm gonna send this to the news media because I'm not authorizing for you guys to come in here without my consent. I need for you to step out, sir.
Are the guys over here?
What you guys are doing is arrest.
Can you go and ask them? to
No
come
questions.
over here
I'm not
once they
gonna.
tell me that
I'm not
they're
gonna
clear?
answer any
I'll
questions, sir.
leave.
I'm not gonna answer any questions, sir. I need for you to step out of my business. There's nothing going on in here. Everybody that is in here is legal to be in the United States. Excuse me, sir. You're the only one in here without my
I'm
consent.
just waiting for them to tell me it's clear, and I'll leave. That's it.
They're inspecting. They're
I'm not gonna
inspecting
leave
something
until
else.
They tell me it's clear.
They're inspecting something else compared to what you're in here for. I need for you to step out, sir. It's my business.
I'm working on that. Okay.
No, you're
Once
not
they
with
tell
them.
me- once they tell me they're clear, I'm clear.
They are TDLR, and you are ICE or whatever you are. I know you guys are trying to do your business and your work, but I mean it's not the same deal. Excuse me, sir. I need for you to step outside. I need for you to step outside, sir. Sir? Sir?
What's your name?
Hello, agent. Can I see your information?
He said no. All right. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Who can put in the chat box what were some of the rights that this barber was asserting, and how did they do that?
I will also just ask, like, if you can share how does this make you feel?
Angry. Yeah. That must have been a really scary situation. Intimidating, helpless. It was very impressive how calm that barber was. Absolutely. Hmm. Angry and frustrated. Impressed with the owner's strength and persistence. Helpless, fearful.
Yeah, I think the response that we've gotten from other people as well is this feeling of anger. And at the same time, like they were at all and how, calm and brave and all the things this person was. And I'm like, yeah, and this couldn't have been possible unless they knew their rights. And it just sort of speaks to how powerful it is to have trainings like these and to empower people um, with information that they have the right to have. And, I felt inspired, really. It is scary. And when we do role plays in person, we're not going to have a opportunity to do a role play here today. It's a little harder to do virtually, but when we do role plays in person, like folks get to feel that initial feeling of, what it feels to even to have an ICE agent, even if it's just a role play that we're doing. But they get to feel that, and then also they get to feel how empowered they felt to say, like, and actually, I have the right to remain silent. I'm not speaking to you. I want to speak to to an attorney. I need to talk to my manager. So we love to like share this video because people are doing it. That's a question that we get asked all the time. People are doing this. People do know what, their rights, and um it's inspiring. And there's still, even though there is still a lot more work to do, um we're working on it. And I just hope that you come out of here knowing that this is happening and that you can share this information as well. um Karen has her hand up.
Hi, thanks. So I noticed when the owner asked for his for information, his name, that's when he left. So is it possible that this isn't even ICE, that this is just, um, you know, people impersonating ICE? Or do
Mm,
you, because they're all not going to get scared away by that, are they? If you say, let's see your badge number. Sometimes they just say, here it is on my belt, or I don't have to give you that or something. But
they're definitely wearing like vests and things. I mean, the Fourth Amendment applies to agents, to ICE, if there's ICE agents or federal agents. So right now, there's all kinds of agents going to do these arrests. In terms of people like impersonating, we haven't heard of any cases of that sort right now. What we have heard, though, is that because the money that they're pouring into hiring people to do this, uh, folks are just not getting the training that they need. So they also become intimidated by like folks knowing what their rights are and just asking for information. Where's your judicial warrant? And then they just decide not say anything. I know Linda's going to continue to talk a little bit about, what we're recommending people to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and get ahead of her. We actually do recommend people to start recording, and like workplaces to have recording as part of their protocol. Because if as soon as they see the agents, like if the protocol is and take out your phone and start recording, that is actually have made it possible uh um for people not to want to engage. So it makes it more possible for the ICE agents or any other federal agent that is in there to just leave because they're being recorded. Yeah. Go ahead, Linda.
Yes, thank you. How's my volume? Doing okay? All right, please keep putting in the chat if I took my headphones out. Hopefully that'll help some. Yes, so certainly, I think this brings up a lot. I think this is scary and intimidating, but something that's neat to see is when we know our rights and when groups of us know our rights, we have a lot of power. We have rights afforded by the law and the Constitution, and we have power ourselves, and we can have power together. So ICE is scary and intimidating and powerful, and we can be too, particularly when we know these things. So I put in the chat box a handout that we use to kind of summarize what are the rights that we have that are protected under the Fourth Amendment that we saw this barber exercise really well. One is the right to remain silent, and he did this in a way that wasn't very quiet. But he chose not to answer any questions, and he very calmly stated, I'm exercising my right to remain silent, and I won't be answering your questions. Similarly, people don't have to answer questions about their immigration status, country of origin, who's present, any of that kind of stuff. We have the right to withhold documents. So people don't have to show ID, time card schedules, or other records unless legally required. The only ways to legally require that are through a judicial warrant or through an I-9 audit, which businesses wouldn't have to respond to for 3 business days. So agents are not going to show up and demand responses in the moment with an I-9 audit. That's just not, you don't have to give that to them in that moment. Anai talked about the power and importance of recording interactions. We have the right to record. We have the right to alert others, loudly state, I want to share that there are federal agents present. We're going to go ahead and start following our federal agent protocol. ICE is here. We have the right to inform. We can restrict access. We can say this is a private area. I don't see a judicial warrant. I don't give you permission to be in here. We heard him really model that of saying repeatedly, I don't authorize you to be here. We can refuse a search, and we can always request legal counsel. We do want to note that there are some choices that can put people in legal jeopardy, and they should know about those risks. So doing things like physically blocking agents, giving false information, helping someone flee, or refusing entry after a valid judicial warrant is presented are things that can put people in jeopardy. So we are here to provide information and education about what are our rights protected by law and what are things that come with some risk. Certainly some people choose to do those, and that's their choice. And we're just here to inform people about what's protected by law and what could be risky. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving here. All right, true or false? If the bathrooms at my workplace are currently open to the public, I can't make them private spaces by posting a sign that says employees only and installing a lock. All right, I got some falses. You are absolutely right. Yes, this is false. You get to decide, business owners get to decide, people get to decide what's considered a public and private area and can post signs and make those kinds of decisions. There are requirements around providing public restrooms. So if you only had one restroom and you were open to the public, that might be harder, but there may be options. There's a great question. If a judicial warrant is presented and the employer can't reach a lawyer, what should they do? They're welcome to call the Siembra hotline, and there might not be a lawyer right on the line, but there will be someone who can talk that person through a situation. A lot of what we do with folks when they're creating their protocol is we talk with them around, do they have a lawyer? Do they want to consult a lawyer? And really thinking through how that might go down. Anaí, if you can help me out with putting the Siembra hotline in the chat.
Yes.
And that's something that when I learned that, I put it in my phone. It's a good number to have. Okay. The hotline is 24/7. So in June, agents walked into a Pennsylvania grocery store to interview a worker. She was standing inside an office when they approached. The office didn't have any signs. No one asked the agents for a warrant, and when she started talking to them, some customers started filming the interaction. No store managers ever appeared. They asked her to come with them voluntarily, and eventually she agreed and was put in an ICE vehicle outside the store. What are 2 things that went wrong or should have happened instead? And as you're thinking about this, I want to just add that I think it's really helpful to look at this and think about what could have gone differently. If we're ever in a similar situation, how could we do things differently? And that had to be an awful and hard situation. I'm sure this person who was detained, and I'm sure the people around them did the best they could. This was an awful thing that happened, and we have the opportunity to learn from it and try to keep people as safe as possible. Yeah, so she agreed. She could have remained silent and not agreed to go with them, right? She could have exercised her right to remain silent. She could have asked for a warrant. No request for a warrant. Yeah, and she could have asked for a warrant. A manager could have asked for a warrant. Onlookers could have asked for a warrant. Other employees could have asked for a warrant, right? Also, this business could have signage posted that like this is a private area. That person could have gone into like been in the office and locked the door and talked to them through the door as well. Yep, absolutely. Great question. Someone's asking, does it need to be a manager or owner to demand the warrant? I don't think so. I think anyone who is an onlooker who is seeing what happens can say, I'm aware that we have the Fourth Amendment in the United States and that law enforcement doesn't have the right to search a private area without permission of the owner or a judicial warrant. Hey, do you have one of those? Do you want me to go get like what's going on here? Certainly. Yeah. Great. All right. I'm going to keep us moving so we've got time for Q&A at the end, but certainly please keep the questions coming as they're coming up. Drop them in the chat, and Anaí is going to help me make sure I don't overlook anything. And I think this last event is just a reminder that there are lots of things that lots of people can do. This isn't on and shouldn't ever just be on one person. But when we all know about these rights, we all can take action together. And to Karen's question of like, what is it that made the ICE agent leave? I mean, who knows? And we can try a smattering of things in the hopes that that the outcome will be that they leave and not detain any of our community members. Okay, HSI agents delivered notices of an I-9 inspection to a dozen restaurants in DC in April asking for employment documents and also asked to interview workers on the spot. Under federal employment law, did the managers have to give them access to employees or documents? Definitely, or no, 3 days notice. So I'm hearing folks say 3 days notice. And if that is what you said or thought, you are absolutely correct. Not sure. Yeah, that's fair. So again, for I-9 audits, that's something that a business doesn't have to respond to for 3 full business days. And we encourage them to take their 3 full business days. When they get that notice of an I-9 audit, they also have the right to inform their workers and, if applicable, to inform the union as well. So they did not need to give them access to those documents in the moment. And those employees did not need to speak with them. They also have the right to remain silent. Who can request an I-9 audit? Is that ICE, Anai?
Do you mean like who can go to a workplace to do an I-9 audit, or I guess I'm not understanding. What do you mean by request? Yes. Yeah, it could be any federal agent because that is a federal process.
I think usually that comes from ICE or the Department of Homeland Security. Is that what HSI stands for? Yeah. Homeland Security Investigations. Okay, in Newark, New Jersey, there is a combined seafood processing factory and retail store called Ocean Seafood. In January, agents entered through the retail store, which is open to the public, and then there is a door behind a display case where other workers prepare seafood for shipping. They went through that door, interviewed any workers they could find, and detained anyone who could not prove they were a US citizen. So, which option is true? The first one, under federal law, this was perfectly legal because they entered through a public area, or they do not have permission to enter anywhere that is off limits to the general public unless they present a warrant signed by the judge. Yes, so the second one. Come on, buddy. There we go. Yeah, so this second one is absolutely correct. So in this case, they didn't have a right to enter a private area without permission or a judicial warrant. And they were outside of their scope here. There was a question, Annie, there was a question in the chat you addressed. Do you want to speak to that real quick?
Yes, there's have been multiple questions. Somebody asked if you had workers at home, could ICE interview them without a warrant? And I think Melissa mentioned, but a home can be a private area. That is true. And also it's true that ICE agents can interview whoever they want, or at least attempt to interview anyone. I think the takeaway here is that it's up to us and, people to know that they can remain silent and that they don't need to answer any questions. But we have seen that before where, they go asking for someone and then they're like, and I need to go interview anyone else that is in the property, and they could do that, and they have done that. But really, the information that we want everybody to know is that they can do whatever they want, and they have done it. And this is the reason why we're doing this training, is so like if they end up doing all of the things that are illegal, what are the things that you can assert to make it less likely for them to get information out of you?
And so a lot of people's protocols are to try to keep private areas locked when possible. And if that's not possible, if ICE were to show up, I'm giving away future answers. The first step in the protocol is to lock private areas. we also have the right to alert, right? And so a protocol might be ICE shows up, we lock private areas, and we loudly state, federal agents are here, ICE is here. I want to remind everyone that you have the right to remain silent. ICE may ask people questions. No one has to answer any question that they're asked. And we can continue to say that. So if they remain silent, can they still take them away without a warrant? Absolutely. That's harder to do if they are behind a locked door. And I think there's like what they do, what they can do legally, which is again why recording is often important, because they oftentimes try to find these loopholes, but then oftentimes they're just breaking the law, which is why it's important to record. That way we can document what's happening, and so that there can be recourse and to hold ICE accountable. Okay. In 2025, nightclubs in Colorado and South Carolina have been served with criminal search warrants by the DEA, and ICE agents followed them in. True or false? Under federal law, that means the managers had to answer any questions the ICE agents had about the workers, about what workers were present at the time. I'm going to give you a hint. A DEA search warrant is not going to be signed by a federal judge. Yeah, so you all are saying false, and this is absolutely false. So a DEA search warrant is not going to be a judicial warrant, and that means that these managers don't have to give ICE access to private areas, and they don't have to provide any information that they don't want to provide. There's a question about, should a business lock the officer inside if there's only one officer inside? It's a great question. I think this scenario of locking the doors works better if the officer is in a public area and there are private areas that can be locked. I don't know that, I don't think we would want to lock an area in particular because we can't, physically obstructing an ICE agent could put someone in legal jeopardy. So I think that would be something to consider when thinking about locking doors. Oh, Anai has some different thoughts. Anai, do you think something different?
I think I read it wrong. I think I thought it said, should a business lock the office?
Okay.
And if there's only one officer site. No, I read it wrong. Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think the point of locking doors is to keep federal agents out of private areas. If they're already in the private area, then we'd love for them to leave. And we can very confidently assert that they need to leave. They don't have a right to be in there. They don't have permission to be in there. You don't have a judicial warrant. We're going to record that. Hopefully that makes them follow the law. Okay, so what is the first thing you should do if ICE agents attempt to enter your business or community space, congregation, etc., to search for someone? Ask them if they have a warrant, review the warrant, decide if the warrant is a judicial warrant, call your attorney, lock any doors, alert staff that they're there, start recording, remind everyone agents attempt to interview that they don't have to answer any questions or show ID. We've got some things saying all. You guys are getting smart to our antics, but we're looking for a couple here that you want to prioritize because this is a whole lot to do all at once. We got some recording, we've got some locked doors, asked to see the warrant. Okay, judicial warrant, record. Lock doors and ask for the warrant. Okay. The answer is lock any door separating public and private areas, alert staff that federal agents are attempting to enter, and start recording the interaction. These are our top three that we want to prioritize from the jump. After we alert staff and lock any door, any doors, and we are recording, what are the next two things? Record, review the warrant. I guess we said record on the last slide, huh? Absolutely. Yep. Y'all are right on. We're recording, we're reviewing that warrant. Absolutely. From there, we're making decisions, or we're saying, I don't have the authority to review this. I need to call my manager, my supervisor, the head of the church, whomever. Yeah. And then we're also calling attorneys. And again, we're reminding everyone. And we can walk around and just repeat this over and over and over again. We have the right to share that as much as we want. And so we can just say over and over, you don't have to answer any questions. You don't have to answer any questions. You have the right to remain silent. You don't have to share your name. You don't have to share your country of origin. You don't have to show any identity documents. These are our rights for all people, regardless of status, protected under the Fourth Amendment. Sometimes just providing an interruption and a presence, and just showing that like we know our rights and we're going to assert them can do a lot. Okay. True or false? If someone is arrested at my workplace in a private area of the business without a warrant signed by a judge, I can't sue ICE afterwards to try to get them released, even if I have video evidence of what they did. So this is false. Certainly there are lots of instances where having video evidence of ICE violating laws and the Fourth Amendment has been very, very helpful in suing them, and can be really helpful in relief for that person detained, and also can possibly provide some recourse and accountability for what is happening. Great, which is why knowing these rights, doing this, documenting is really, really important. Okay, that is the end of our Q&A. Thank you all so much for your participation. This is a sharp group. I'm excited. I feel really great about you all and your brains and your hearts and everything I hope we'll be able to do together to keep folks as safe as possible here in Durham. I'm putting this into the chat box as well. This is a kind of draft federal agent protocol that we often give to people that we're working with as a starting point of where they can start from in trying to build out a protocol. And it lays out some kind of steps that people can take. We are more than happy to go to different organizations, faith-based communities, workplaces to do this training, and to work with folks to help them think through and adopt their own protocol. Think about what are public and private spaces, what are some things that you all want to do. Anaya shared her email address. I hope you all will reach out to her with those referrals of places that want this training and want to do this work, because we definitely want to do it with them. And this can be a resource in helping to start do that. So, with that said, okay, yes, I did the pitch. We want to come to do the trainings in all the places. Please let us know. And I do believe we will be sharing materials as well. So these resources that I've shared in the chat, and I believe also,
Yes.
yes, we will probably send to Brianna, and they will share out in all of the ways. And so I'm going to ask Brianna to stop recording at this point, and we will open it up